Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from South Florida. And joining me here tonight is everyone's favorite mod, if you're a part of the Nerdrotic community, and that is just another red shirt, who, in my experience, is not just another red shirt. He is an exceptional red shirt. But anyway, I don't know if you do much of your own content, sir, but I know that you drift around the YouTube community a lot. So first off, welcome to the program. And just briefly, how did you get involved in YouTube and just this whole corner of fandom in the internet? Oh, I think you're muted. Maybe.
Come on, there it is.
Oh,
yeah, I muted the microphone by mistake. Must have touched that button. Sorry. Thank you. First of all, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here. How did I get into this whole YouTube thing? That's probably not the usual story. I knew about YouTube. I would occasionally jump on and watch videos, but that was about it. You know, mostly the stuff that got recommended. If it looked interesting, I'd watch it. But I was a big blog reader, and a couple of years ago, a blog I read regularly finished up a post with a link to a YouTube video that had something to do with celebrities fleeing Hollywood, and it had the craziest thumbnail for the video. And I went, that's weird, but it looks interesting. So I clicked through, watched it. It was on the Gary's Nerdrotic channel. And I was like, this guy is interesting to listen to. He's got some interesting takes, and he explains why he has the opinion he has. So I watched a few more of his videos and subscribed. And then I discovered live streams, because I didn't know anything about live streams. And I got on a live stream, and there's this chat, and I'm looking for a box to comment with, and there isn't one, because I don't have a channel yet. You need a channel to have a name to comment with. So I created a channel, and I needed a name. I thought, well, I'm in this pop culture world now. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love The Prisoner. I love a lot of the sci-fi stuff. What would I call myself? And I was like, something to do with Star Trek. I was like, well, I could be one of the red shirts in engineering. I was like, well, that'd be not one of the red shirts in engineering. That name's too long. Just another red shirt. That sounds great. That's not pretentious or anything. And so I picked that name and signed up and started commenting. And about 2 months after I started commenting and finding other channels to watch and watching a lot more live streams, I picked up my first wrench and had no idea what I was doing. I was a babe in the woods, didn't know where the controls were, didn't know what the controls did. Luckily, in that live stream, there was already a wrench, and that was Eric K, who is the main wrench for Gary at Nerdrotic. Mm-hmm. And he basically helped me out, gave me some advice, showed me the ropes, and he's still basically, I consider him to be my mentor, because I just try and follow his example. And a month or so later, I was watching Friday Night Tights, and Gary was saying, let's see who's here. And he was calling out people he saw in the chat. And then he announced at the end, and we have a new female wrench. And I think it was Jennifer Sisko. And then he said, and another new wrench. And somebody, probably Jeremy, interrupted him. And the conversation went back and forth for a minute, and I thought, did he just start to say, and another new wrench, just another red shirt? No, 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 that could never happen. And finally, Gary got a word at edgewise and said, and just another red shirt is another new wrench. And I typed, "You're kidding me," in the chat, and it showed up. And then my name turned blue, and the wrench appeared next to it. You could have knocked me over
Mm-hmm.
with a feather. It was a big deal for me. So, and then I found out that's a whole different level. When you're modding a chat with that many people watching at the same time, even with slow mode on, it's hard to see, hard to catch things, and it's
Oh yeah.
important. And it's important that the mods do. So I had a learning curve all over again after 2 months or so of being a wrench, of trying to figure out how to be a wrench on a channel and a chat that big. So, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, well, it's been great getting to know you kind of through this community. I mean, Gary's community, and I guess the Geeks and Gamers community has gone through so many different name variations. You know, the
Right.
Fellowship, uh, um, the alt right, geek, uh, zone. If you read mainstream press, just a lot of different variations.
Yeah.
I discovered Gary, as most of the people here know, because during the pandemic, during lockdown, I got bored and I found the Critical Drinkers channel first,
Yes. Oh,
and I don't even know how I think I found his channel because I watched like one of his reviews on one of the Star Wars movies, and then my co-host Apex Gamma, who isn't here this week, but he's in chat. He was like, "Oh yeah, Drinkers. I followed him 6 months ago. He's great."
he is.
So then I basically binge watched a bunch of Drinkers videos, and then Gary popped it up in my feed, kind of recommended, and I'm like, "Who's the guy who looks like he's from ZZ Top?" So
Yes.
I started watching Gary, and in some ways I wouldn't say I liked him better than Drinker, but I liked him just as much, and
Yeah.
you know he did a pretty good job with his content. So I just went down through the rabbit hole, and eventually I found um, I saw you, I think, in comics divisions streams a couple times, and
Yep.
then on the Cocktail Lounge, which is hosted by our good friend Matt from Fellball Productions. And a few weeks ago, you had a pretty heated discussion with one of the panelists on cultural Marxism and whatnot, which I find very interesting because not a lot of people talk about that in this space.
No. I mean, you talk in this space, most people talk about, the culture war.
Yeah.
And my point probably was, I don't remember my exact words or what the exact topic was, but the culture war derives from from cultural Marxism,
Mm-hmm.
because when economic Marxism, that was what it started as. And they said, economics will cause the working class to rise up and in a communist revolution. And it didn't happen, because if it was going to happen, it would have happened in Germany, not Russia. So all of the Marxist thinkers started scratching their heads, and they formed a think tank, and they came up with this new concept, cultural Marxism. Will change the culture to cause the revolution. And that was a long time ago. So cultural Marxism is not talked about much because for most people today, it's ancient history. I mean, it dates back to the time between the two world wars in the 20th century. But the culture war is very much current. It's just knowing where it comes from sometimes helps to give you perspective on it. So that was what I was talking. That's why I talk about cultural Marxism. It's the origin point of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up because that's kind of where my whole YouTube career kind of began. I'm 27, but I came up watching a lot of Andrew Breitbart's old videos and reading Breitbart.com when he was still alive.
Yeah,
And in fact, one of our mods, Daylight Disinfectant, actually knew Andrew fairly well. But it's
cool.
interesting because I haven't heard anyone really bring up the cultural Marxism stuff that much in this space, other than perhaps you and Gary, well, and Fellball on
Yeah,
occasion with. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's still very much, people think that this stuff is new, within the last 5 years, and it's not.
No, it's not
Um,
new.
so,
They they took the masks off. Is the difference
oh yeah,
that
they're not.
that's why it seems new in the last 5 years because they were doing their best to stay behind, out of the spotlight, behind the scenes before that.
Yeah, they're just not hiding it anymore at all.
Not at all.
So,
No.
and I mean, so with that in mind, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess you know it's interesting because people are starting to really wake up to this, especially this past week with the whole Oscars fiasco. I don't know. I don't know if you've been in any of those streams this week talking about that whole incident, but I for one haven't watched the Oscars in probably since like 2012. Back when I was in high school,
Right.
and even then, they weren't really that interesting.
No.
But I wasn't even tuning into the Oscars.
Congratulations on getting 800 subs, Sam.
Oh, thank you, Fat Keck Boy, for the super chat. Yes, we have 830 subs now. Thanks to Gary, who gave me a good shout out early in the week. So, hail, Gary. Thank you very much. Anyway, though, this whole thing with the Oscars, yeah, I think a lot of people start to wake up to just what a sham this whole thing is. Although,
Yeah.
what's your whole opinion on the whole Will Smith thing? Do you think it was real or fake? Or I've seen people who go back and forth on it, and I don't know.
Okay. Um, After doing some thinking about it, I think it was real. I think the tears in his acceptance speech were fake.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of things. I finally got to see some other angles, which was very interesting. Because in one camera angle, you got to see Jada before and then immediately after the incident. And before the incident, she scowled and he was laughing. Then he turned and looked at her, and that was it. He went up on stage, slapped him, came back, and I forget whether it was right after the slap or right after he was yelling, screaming at Chris Rock. Jada was smiling. She looked like the cat that ate the canary. And it was like, this was, you are so happy this happened. I think for starters, I think Jada Pinkett Smith is a manipulative, and I know the word is out of fashion with psychologists, and I'm not one, but a person with no real emotion who doesn't acknowledge other people as real as they are, a psychopath.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
think And I think she broke him. That's my point. And it was real because I think she broke him and he snapped
Well,
and went up on stage.
yeah. Well, there are all sorts of, I mean, there have been rumors for years now that they had like an open marriage and that she was, basically screwing other guys on the side. And,
I don't think that was just rumors. I think that
you
was
know,
a
I,
little more. I think that was a little more established than that.
I, well, yeah, I think it's been confirmed now, pretty much. And I don't know whether or not he just snapped finally and, had enough of it, or if, uh, if it were just spur of the moment. But yeah, I mean, it was over a GI Jane joke too. I mean, it wasn't a very, it
It
was a
was.
milk toast joke
It was.
at the most.
It was very
Um,
milk toast. It was. It really wasn't that big. Should not. Excuse me. Should not have been that big a deal because she's already on record as saying her bald head doesn't bother her. That's why
so,
she shaved it.
well, supposedly it doesn't bother her.
Yeah.
Now,
Well.
you know,
Okay. Maybe she lied about that. Okay.
I mean, again, I'm kind of thinking that maybe it did bother her because, Chris Rock made the joke and he started to laugh, and she got pretty pissed about it. So then, he went up and slapped. And at first I thought the thing was staged completely just to get the Oscars more views. But then once I saw footage the day after of the whole keep my wife's name out of your mouth or whatever, and just the raw emotion, that if that was acting, that was the best acting job that he's done.
He's ever done. Yes. And I don't think Chris Rock is that good an actor to feign surprise and shock and try and recover like that. I
No.
think I think that was real for Chris Rock. If that was staged, they didn't tell Chris Rock it was going to happen. So I think it was real. I really do. Um, I know that basically Hollywood closed ranks around him. Everybody in that pretty much in that room, including Chris Rock, closed ranks, supported him. The police were ready to arrest him, and Chris Rock prevented that by refusing to press charges. And the Academy asked him to leave, and he refused. And then he goes up, and then they give him an Academy Award after this happened. Well, latest news is he's resigned from the Academy.
Yeah, I mean that's the latest news. We'll see how long that sticks for.
Yeah, but I question what career he prospects he has now. I mean, because he well, let's put it this way: even if Hollywood decided, oh, he can still work, uh, he's not going to be the box office draw he was before.
Well, to be honest though, he really hasn't been for the past like 15 years though. I mean,
Right. I mean, but even if he got the right vehicle and did,
yeah.
got somebody to help him read a script to find out whether it stinks, um, he'd have to play the right part. He'd have to have the right script. He'd have a shot at coming back. Other actors have done it, but
Mhm.
I don't think he's got a prayer of a comeback now. Really, I think it's all over
I don't
because of that.
I don't even know if he really wants to come back, to be honest. I mean, he's just been humiliated for years now at this point, it seems
Right.
like. And in his I mean, and now his son is basically an actor only through nepotism. His son is not that great of an actor, and I never really thought that Will Smith, to be fair, was a fantastic actor. I mean, he was good in like Independence Day and a few things, but
Yeah.
he was never groundbreaking or anything
No,
thing
he
like
he
that.
he he
So
was best when he was playing a variation of himself.
yeah,
You know, uh, Men in Black, uh, Independence Day. You know, probably the Wild Wild West as well. You know that they were all variations on him being good at wisecracks,
which
essentially.
I which I guess they were going to make a they were going to make a sequel to that, and now I guess they're not going to. You know, I mean,
I
it
saw
would.
the. I remember the original Wild Wild West on television. It was tongue in cheek, but it was not as goofy as that movie was. And that was for
Yeah.
mid '60s comedy, Western comedy. So I don't know why they would make a sequel to it. I mean, did that thing even make money? The first movie?
Uh, I don't know. I don't know if it did or any. I don't know if it did. I know it was like popular for a while, but
Okay. Then it probably made just enough money for them to say, well, it wasn't a bomb. Let's see if we can make a second movie. But yeah, now that'll be actually a good test of whether he's got a career. If they shut down a sequel to a sequel to Wild Wild West, and there's any indication it's because of Will Smith and his actions, that's bad news for him.
well, I think though too, to be honest, the you know when did that movie come out? The late '90s. I mean,
I think so. Hang on, take a quick look at IMDb.
if the Matrix, you know, sequel Matrix 4 that they did was any indication of how it's going to get of how it was going to go, probably not well.
Yeah. Yes, 1999. That was when it
Yeah.
came out.
So if they were to make a new one now, it would be about 20 more than 20 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
not to say that sequel not to say that long-awaited sequels don't ever work. I mean, there have been a few exceptions, I guess, but by and large, I just don't see, him reviving that IP, especially considering that a lot of people that would be interested in that probably weren't even born when the original
For,
came out.
when the first movie came out, right?
So,
Yes. Yeah, that just that doesn't make sense to me on a number of levels, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I think Will Smith would be good if he could get some help because I don't think he's got a healthy marriage or healthy home life.
well,
That's
and
the
it
impression I got.
well, I mean, but I think the thing that points to, again, going back to the whole thing with culture Marxism, I think it's kind of indicative of how most Hollywood relationships probably are, at least on that level, where you have a room full of um, A-listers. I mean, how many years did the Academy pretend that nothing was going on with Harvey Weinstein,
Yeah,
or Kevin Spacey or any of these
right. No, they
weirdos?
exactly. And when have they ever addressed, any of the whistleblowers? Usually former child actors, and they never have done anything about that. That's just quietly swept under the rug.
Yeah, and it's now it's now it's kind of. I mean, I'd like to think that it's improving somewhat, but in reality, I think they're kind of overcorrecting somewhat, and now doing the opposite. You know, of
Maybe. I don't see true accountability coming out of there. I mean, I don't think the overcorrection is that people are being, there's too many accusations being leveled in another, in the other
Yeah.
direction. I just don't think there's really any accountability. I think it's lip service. Whatever they do that's supposed to change it I think is mostly lip service. They really want to hope that people just stop paying attention to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever was good about Me Too in the beginning got hijacked. And now it's just another PR stunt that they use to
Oh yeah.
manipulate things. And that's not even, counting this whole thing with Disney and Florida and
Oh yeah.
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 Um, and I'm in Florida, and I'm not like near Disney, but I mean it is a cottage. It is a big part of tourism, and let me put it
Oh,
this way:
huge.
Disney Disney isn't going to be hurting because of this. They're
No.
they're too big to fail. But I do think it's interesting that there is such a pushback that Disney is essentially, from my understanding, saying that they know better than parents do at this point.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous position to be in for a company that's been known for more than the time I've been alive as a family entertainment company. You know,
Hmm.
that's not a good look for a company that's supposed to be a family entertainment company. And if there's anything that could reduce Disney's customer base to wealthy single people, that might do it if they keep pushing this, because that could really be a problem for them. They are on the wrong side of this when it comes to their customers. They are accommodating activists, I think, mostly within the company, and not paying attention to what their customers would want, and that's not a good way to go. I mean, that's the get woke go broke model.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not going to they're not going to change just because they're so used to that model already. They're just going to continue to spiral into oblivion. I mean, no one I know watches their shit anyway.
Well,
So,
no, I mean, but they still, their parks are still so overcrowded. It's ridiculous. Okay, and I've been there 4 different times, and I've never seen crowds like they have now. But the difference with this is, and I just want to point out, I remember I think it was like last year's shareholder meeting that Disney held, and somebody back then asked, because this was the big controversy after Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian, and then Gina Carano being fired, and some of the more toxic statements made by Disney Lucasfilm executives from the story team. And somebody got on the phone in the shareholder meeting and said, and stockholder meeting, and said, you know, is Kathleen Kennedy damaging the brand, and if so, would she be let go because of her damaging it because of her politics, and so it was a very pointed question, and Bob Chapek led off with, Disney is a politically neutral company, and nobody laughed, which is what blew my mind. So a year ago, Disney could still, with a straight face, have its chairman claim that it is a politically neutral company, and a year later, they're saying we will do everything in our power to repeat, to get the legislature to repeal, or the courts to strike down, the parental rights in education law. That's a hell of a shift in 1 year.
yeah. I mean, I was shocked that really no one. I mean, I think a few people called them out on the fact they were when when Chapek said that they were a politically neutral company, but not enough people
Not enough. No.
did.
No.
And I will say that entertainment is one of the spots where the right still has a massive blind spot. I mean, I like the fact that the Daily Wire and others are at least attempting to do alternative, media. But the thing that really, I guess, irritates me is the fact that a lot of that just seems to be, oh, well, this is conservative, version of whatever,
Right.
which is not how you do I mean, that's not what people want. They just want a good story without,
Yes.
too much political influence. And I mean, I've told people that, like, if you want to know how to write, good thrillers or something, just watching the films that John Milius wrote back in the 70s and 80s.
Well, you can put a lot of almost any message into a piece of entertainment as long as character and story come first, and the message is more of a moral of the story, right? The master of that was Rod Serling with his Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone only had a couple of episodes where the message was anywhere near on the nose. For the most part, you had to tease it out of the story for yourself.
Yeah,
They didn't hit you over the head with it.
right. Which, I mean, now it's the exact opposite. And
Right.
I mean, it's also sad because they actually did try to reskin the Twilight Zone with oh, I can't remember what the guy's name is. The guy who one of the I think it's Jordan Peele, the guy who did Key and Peele, and now I mean, it's just that's turned into an SJW remake, and I don't even think his version is on anymore. I think it's on Paramount Plus or one of those now.
Where 5 people watch it.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
and
but the current crop doesn't know how to tell a good story. Never mind get the story to make their point for them. There's too many
no,
people who lack the talent. I mean, case in point, uh, one of the topics that's near and dear to my heart, animation. Pixar, huge fan of Pixar. Have been since the early days of Pixar. I have the first DVD of Pixar shorts, which were essentially technology demonstrators. That's really what they were. They were to go. They were to be shown at trade shows and symposia in order to get, spark interest in Pixar's hardware and computer hardware and software. And they were kind of like, "Hey, watch this short subject, and you can see all the amazing things our software and hardware can do." And a guy named uh, John Lasseter was hired, and he's an artist and character animator. And he decided that their shorts should try and actually tell a story with character animation, not just go, "Hey, look at this! Isn't this cool?" And that was where the two tensor lamps came from. Luxo, I think, is the
ah,
name of the name of the short. And he was working literally elbow to elbow with the technical geniuses at Pixar who were writing the software and setting up the configurations to animate whatever John showed him sketches of, and then he talked them through. So he had to do direction without ever being able to draw a picture, one frame of the animation, but he was directing the animation. And out comes Luxo, and it was an enormous hit. I mean, people went crazy when they saw it. There's a reason that little tensor lamp became part of Pixar's logo and intro to every single one of their movies. So, but they Me Too John Lasseter out of the company, and I think it
real
was bogus.
really.
Yeah,
When did he get me too?
I think a year or two ago.
No kidding.
Yes. A couple of young female employees. And John, by the way, is known for being a hugger. And man, has his Twitter
Oh,
gone completely dormant because he once, I think one of his last tweets before he stopped tweeting was, "Who needs a hug today?" Well, these two young ladies decided that John was inappropriate and he was fired for sexual harassment, basically. And he went to another studio, and he's now siphoning people out of Pixar to come work with him. And the other one they lost was Brad Bird, who is the excellent director who directed The Incredibles. So
uh-huh.
they've lost their genius, the guy who made them an animation studio in the first place, and the guy who directed one of the finest animated features they've ever made, and they're losing more people because of it. So I don't think they could make an animated after school special now with the people they have left.
Well, well, that explains, I mean, why Pixar has sucked for the last couple years
Yep,
because Lasseter isn't, at the helm.
that's
Um,
that's why. That is exactly why they've lost the creative leadership, and Disney has too, because some of their finest Imagineers have been bailing or taking retirement and just getting out of Dodge for probably the last 20 years. So they're a lot more challenged to come up with a new idea. And if you've ever seen any of this information on this new LARPing hotel, the Galactic Star Cruiser,
oh yeah.
oh my God, it's like, aren't there any Imagineers left at Disney? Because
Well,
this looks like you bought it from a party time store and kit bashed it.
well, it doesn't even look like Star Wars. And
No, I
then,
know.
above all that, I mean, I'm sorry, but in this economy, who's going to pay? I mean, even wealthy people I know here, and even wealthy people I know, they're
Mhm.
not going to pay $6,000 for 2 nights, in 2 days for
Yeah,
that
but
experience. Are you kidding me?
right. And even if it were the most amazing experience, they still have to compete with, well, well, Marsha, we could spend 2 days in Maui at the Four Seasons for less money and still pay for the airfare, or we could spend a week in touring Europe for about the same amount of money. You know, what would you rather do? Is kind of the
Yeah,
thing. And they have to offer a better product, a better option than all of those other very high end vacation options. And Disney's never really done that. They just give you middle of the road hotels and charge Four Seasons prices for them almost. And they got away with it because their biggest customers were people who saved money by buying a season pass and never bought anything inside the park, and families who went for a once in a lifetime vacation so their kids could meet Mickey and Minnie and everything out. And
right.
they just handed over their credit card to the Disney gate employee and picked it up when they were driving home. They just spent the earth because cost no object. The kids are never coming back here again. So we're not going to argue over money. And those were their two biggest customer bases. And they've already told the season pass holders, we don't want you anymore. And they're about ready to start losing families. I mean, I don't know who is still packing these parks post post the global emergency. I really don't know where they're getting all these people. I mean, maybe they're vacationers and maybe they're people still going for a once in a lifetime family vacation, but they are jacking the prices up on everything.
Yeah, I mean,
It's gotta bite sometime. The demand can't be that inelastic. Universal Orlando's just down the road. I keep as a gag, I keep posting in chats, hashtag Universal Orlando, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Disney becomes this topic of discussion, because I'm like, hey, does anybody remember there's this really cool 2 theme park place down the road from Disney? It's called Universal Orlando. It's got to bite them sometime. It can't go on forever. So I don't know. I mean, Euro Disney damn near sank them at the end of Eisner's tenure. Uh, I don't think they're not. I don't think they're too big to fail. I think if they lose the theme parks, they don't have anything left to run on.
Well, now,
That's
now what they're doing too is, I mean, they're having to compete with, Universal Orlando,
mm-hmm.
and I mean, in
Yeah.
Universal, from what I understand, I haven't been to their park in a while either, but you know, their experience, from what I understand, is pretty competitive compared
Yes.
to, Disney's.
Yeah,
So.
and Universal Orlando's hungry. They know they're number 2. They want to be number 1, and they're working. They're working at it, and they're paying attention to the people who show up. And the difference between Disney and Universal right now is that both parks are overcrowded. Okay, both parks are getting attendance that overpacks them, causes customer complaints about waiting, long wait times, and all that. Disney's solution: raise the prices. Fewer people will be willing to pay them, and then the parks won't be overcrowded. Universal's decision: build a new park.
Yeah, it's
Expand the product, the supply. So they have 2 fundamentally different philosophies right now, and I'm rooting for Universal because Disney's acting like a monopoly is what they're doing, and they're not one.
well, Disney's been a monopoly for years.
Well, there was nobody in the same space. Busch Gardens was never going to be the equivalent of Walt Disney World or even Disneyland. Universal Orlando is the closest thing to come along that I've seen that could give Walt Disney World a run for its money. And I think it's going to. I just don't think it's quite happened yet. But let Universal Orlando in a year or 2 get that new park up and operating and not have it fall on its face. Now they've got a lot more of a set of options for a destination, for a family, for a few days to a week or whatever. And that's gonna be interesting to see. As Disney is acting as though it doesn't care anything about its customers as long as the park is crowded.
Well, I think. Well, I don't think it's an. I don't think it's an act. I don't think they care about their customer as long as the park
Okay,
is crowded.
I misspoke. Disney's behavior shows that they don't give a damn about their customers as long as the park is packed. That would be more accurate. But I agree with you. Yeah, they don't care. And that's another mask that's coming off. That used to be you know, Disney employees used to have to go to the Disney school before they could start working in the parks. And I spoke with somebody who did do it once. And he said, one of the classes you get, one of the things they teach you is how to smile. You should always be smiling at the guests.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
I heard
gone.
about that.
Yeah, and that's gone. That's just flat gone. Um, it's interesting. That the I've watched the operation change from for over decades because I've been there 4 times. First time was in 1973 in Walt Disney World, and the last time was in 2012. And man, there have been changes, major differences every time I've been there. And it's not been for the better since the 25th anniversary in 96.
Well,
Not in my opinion.
well, in regards to Disney, I have to wonder. I mean, one of the reasons why I think why the quality has gone down is because they're trying to, and I'm not defending them. I'm just saying that this is kind of what has
Yeah.
happened is they've taken over a bunch of different franchises. I mean, they've taken over not just Disney properties, but Lucasfilm, Marvel,
Yep.
just those two alone, separate could be a whole, industry them, each their own.
Right.
So I just think they've oversaturated themselves with, content. And I think, I mean, does Marvel Comics in and of itself, I mean, I'm a collector, but Marvel Comics hasn't really put out anything in terms of like a good story in the past 10 years, if
Not
that.
really. No, not from what I've heard. But
So,
the parks specifically. I mean, the drain of resources over to these other new properties that they bought, these companies, and that they've made divisions of Disney. But the philosophy of running the parks changed, and it changed during Bob Iger's tenure. Iger brought in intentionally a guy to be president of park operations, which, by the way, is where uh, uh, the current CEO came from. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Chapek, Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek also came out of head of park operations, which I find interesting. The guy that was hired to be head of park operations by Bob Iger came out of the retail clothing business, where the whole goal is to reduce your costs. That's it. And that's the way he started running the theme parks, the Disney theme parks. Reduce the costs. And I don't think he could spell the phrase guest experience. And I don't think Chapek could either. So I think that's part of the reason that the parks have suffered, is because they've put essentially penny pinching accountant types in charge of operating the parks. And it's one thing to operate a park; it's another thing to manage the finances of a park. So don't put the financial guy in charge of operations, and worse yet, don't put the marketing people in charge of operations, because then you get Disney Genie Plus.
they've put the the marketing guys in charge of the studios as well,
Right.
though. I mean,
And yeah, and that's not a that's a different set of talents. I mean, most operations people couldn't be accountants. They'd tear their hair out and run screaming from the room because they can't stand looking at all those damn numbers. And these are different skill sets. You don't grab one person from a background over here and tell them, here, go run that. That's a good way to find out how fast you can screw up your employees and start losing the good ones. Which, gee, I think that's sort of what's been happening in certain parts of Disney.
yeah.
So so I think it's manager. It's just mismanagement, and at the top, the inability to choose, put subordinates in roles to which they will be suited.
Well, it's
That's not unusual. That's not unique to Disney. Lots of companies make that mistake.
it's also hard to tell like who's running Disney centrally always too, because I mean, granted, you've got Bob as like the figurehead, of a president, but is he really running anything? And then you have Kathleen Kennedy running Lucasfilm, and she's just been a joy, for the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah. Yes. I don't, and there's been tons of speculation about just that. What's the deal between Chapek and Kennedy? And there's the faction that says there's a civil war going on at Lucasfilm, Disney Lucasfilm, and the other one says no, there's not. They're
Uh,
all on the same page. And
yeah, I have to think they're all on the same page. I think if there was a civil war, we'd be seeing more of it. Of
yeah,
course,
I
anyone
agree.
of course anyone who takes Mike Zero's opinions on Star Wars. I will give it to him. I don't know how the guy. I gotta give the guy credit. He makes, 15 videos a day, and they all get, thousands of views. But has it would be nice if people in Disney were fighting back, but I don't think they are. I think anyone who is standing back, gets shit canned pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. Um, the wrong opinion will get you not only fired but canceled,
Yeah.
like Gina did. So, you know, um, but Pablo Hidalgo and that numpty in the story group, that VP in the story group that I'd never heard of until he raised his head above the parapet. Now they tweet some of the craziest things and nastiest things. I know that's not a problem.
Yeah. I mean, and now even that stuff is starting to leak over to Warner Brothers a bit, to like,
Yep.
um, not as bad. But I have seen a couple of Disney people, like the post credits for a few of these Warner Brothers projects, and I'm like, wait, weren't you just over at Marvel Studios like a year or so ago? But
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
yeah. Um, I don't know though. Where do you think where do you think this goes in the next 5 to 10 years? The Culture War. Do you think it's going to get better?
I think that the left that's been pushing and pushing and pushing this isn't going to stop just because people start to tune them out. I think they will keep going and try to remain, and they'll just get crazier and crazier and crazier. But hopefully they'll get less and less relevant, and people will start to do what Daily Wire did. They'll start an alternative. People will start to realize that, hey, there's more entertainment to be had watching streamers on YouTube and videos about things I'm interested in than there is in watching, regular television. And YouTube movies will let me find older movies I don't even have to pay for. And if I like it, I'll go out and buy the CD or the Blu-ray or the 4K, whatever's available. And people are going to start looking elsewhere for their entertainment. And when they do that, people will go there to provide it. And Hollywood may implode. They're already doing it. I mean, they bet the farm on China, and then China turned around and slapped them in the face and said, "No, we're not going to kiss you. We're done with you." So I don't think they got the sugar daddy in China they thought they were going to get,
Yeah.
and they need a new one. I
Yeah.
don't know
Well,
if they found it yet.
well, that that whole thing with China though too, it's amusing because I think I saw Disney put out like a tweet earlier, like saying that they stand with Ukraine or something like that, and against communist oppression. And then I don't know who it was, but like multiple people, quote tweeted them, and said, well, what about the
Right.
Uyghurs?
Exactly. Yeah. Nice double standard you got there.
Yeah,
If it weren't for a double standard, you wouldn't have any
seriously.
standards at all, Disney.
Well, they don't, and I mean, again, that just goes to the industry kind of as a whole in Hollywood. I mean, with
I
the
I I think the woke they've been trying to recruit as hard and as fast as they can, and there's a lot of younger people who've gotten a really bad miseducation.
oh yeah,
But the true loud, strident, fanatical believers, I don't think are in a large majority. I think already we're seeing uh, the youngest generation now that's coming out of school and feels like, man, did we get screwed? But they're not automatically pointing the finger at the people that their teachers told them were the people who were screwing them. They're looking around and they're making the decision for themselves in some cases. And I am encouraged that I didn't even think that would be possible if you went through K through college in the last 20 years. So I'm not sure they have the armies of fanatics behind them. So that may mean that eventually the majority realizes you don't have to apologize, you don't have to bend the knee, you don't even have to pay much attention to them. Just say
Yeah.
no and move on.
Well, I'm 27, and I can tell this much. I mean, there are a fair amount of people my age who bought into the whole SJW hype, hook, line, and sinker, and a lot of them, I hate to say it, a lot of them were women. So, but with the whole gender studies thing. But at the same time, I mean, they overplayed their hand too.
Right.
I think as far as the Marxist in schools go, I think what's been happening is they've gone too far overboard. Where even the kids, or at least the ones who are old enough to really know what's going on, are kind of like, wait, what? You
Yeah.
want, there are how many genders? You're saying there are 57 genders? Nope. I mean, it's just gotten bizarre.
Yes.
So
And people are starting to notice, I know I'm not the first to make this point, but what I think is starting to cause a pendulum to swing back, and we may have reached peak woke, is that the normies are waking up to it. As you said, the people started to notice, people who don't normally follow all this movie stuff and pop culture stuff were going, what the heck just happened at the Oscars? You know, and what are they talking about with these criteria for movies to be considered for an Oscar?
yeah.
And all that sort of thing that's been, Oscars so woke, that's come out in the last couple of years. I think that people who don't normally read Variety, right, like the trade mag for Hollywood or whatever, or aren't, focused in on pop culture and a certain type of movies or comic books or video games or whatever, like we tend to be. uh, but the people who normally just, you want to go see a movie this weekend? Yeah, what's playing? And they go pick one. Um, that's about all the preparation that they need. They don't watch to see when it's coming out. They don't want, they don't avidly wait for the trailers to hit YouTube. Uh, those are the people I think who are starting to notice, and that's dangerous for the woke, because that's a that brings a lot of people who suddenly turn around and notice them.
Well, the other thing too, and a few normie friends of mine actually pointed this out, made this observation. Uh, one of them went and saw the new Uncharted movie, which I'm told by them is not that good. But
Hmm.
they go, I paid $20 a ticket. I paid $40 for this,
Right.
and it's like, yeah. I mean, part of the thing is, and I understand with the unspecified virus of unknown origin, that I understand the theaters are struggling, and I understand, okay, you have to adjust ticket prices for that, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
with the way things are going, especially right now, I mean, 40 $40, you have to make that stretch out. And if
Yeah.
the movies aren't that good, people are not gonna, I mean, people already weren't really going to the theater all that much. I mean, it's rare that I'll go to a theater to see a movie. I'd rather, stay home and watch Netflix or YouTube or Amazon
Right.
and just see what's streaming there.
And there's an age cohort that adopted those things, right? And then starting around the late gen, the older Gen Xers and the boomers and up, they haven't adopted those technologies. They would have trouble dealing with. I have a smart TV with streaming services on it, not cable channels. Um, and they're but more and more of them are starting to realize this stuff's going away. We need to get used to this. Like we need to get rid of our landline phone and get a smartphone. And that evolution is migrating up into older generations, and that's the other thing that's dangerous for them because they could expect to wait until the people who think they're full of that they're crazy as a bag of rabid rats to die off, and then they would have then they would just have the people they indoctrinated left. But I don't know that they're going to have the time. I think they're waking too many people up too quickly.
Yeah, they're they're kind of betting the farm on, pushing the woke agenda through. I mean, the other thing though,
Yep.
on the flip side, they are starting to kind of notice, I think, what YouTube is doing because, um, YouTube is starting to censor, content creators too. I mean, I'm buried in the algorithm.
Right.
A lot of content creators are who wouldn't have been 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
So,
but they they changed that around, and having worked in software, that algorithm I'm sure is by now spaghetti code. I bet. I just bet it's spaghetti code by now, which means nobody at Google knows exactly how it works or how to fix something that's
right.
behaving strangely. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So they occasionally will tack on something that lets them punish people they disagree with. But I think it's equally likely much of the time that that's just the algorithm hiccuping and they don't know how to fix it. If they couldn't fix it, probably, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, well, it's everything on YouTube is run by, I mean, it's kind of its own sentient thing,
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand. I mean, people, okay, I won't say I know anyone who works at Google, but I will say that I know someone who knows someone who worked at YouTube at one point, and I think the most startling thing to me at the time, at least, was that there are only like 30 people, or some incredibly small number, actually managing YouTube itself.
Yeah, a lot of it's automated.
Yeah. I mean, for a platform that has millions and millions of hours of video on it.
Billions of hours of video, millions
Yeah.
of hours go up every day. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much there is there and how much I laugh about trying to keep track of a chat with 12,000 people to 15,000 people watching the video all at the same time and keep up with the chat. Imagine trying to keep up with 40 million hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every day, and how many hours of live streams are there? And they've got to try and monitor that, and they've got to try and categorize it, recommend it, all that stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's monumental. I mean, it's ridiculous. If nothing else, it's just a ridiculous amount of computing power that's needed to do it, or it just falls behind.
The thing and the thing about I mean, the thing about YouTube, as kind of an entity, too is, I mean, there's still, glitches going on with it all the time. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I mean, tonight it worked, but I actually subbed on an alternate channel to my, to my own channel just to see if the notifications work. And, half the time I end up having to post, the link in Gilded because otherwise no one ever sees, you know, stream notifications or anything like
Yeah,
that.
50% seems to be about what most people assess their notification rate to be. Half of the live streams that they subscribe to
Yeah.
gives them a notification and half don't. Yeah, and that is a glitch. That unless that's, essentially shadow banning, a form of shadow banning, that's probably just a glitch. But good luck to them to find it.
I don't yeah, I mean I know shadow banning on Twitter is definitely a thing because I've definitely
Live stream
experienced.
live streams get it on YouTube. Live streams can be shadow banned. What happens is if you go to that channel and say and look for the future or current live streams, it'll show you that there's a live stream right now. But it will not be it will not show up as live in your subscription list, and it will not show up as live on your dashboard or anyone else's dashboard.
That
You have to know there's a live stream and how to find the link.
Yeah, that happens to my channel a lot. Well, that even happened with like drunk 3PO.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just earlier today I clicked on his channel just because I saw that there were new videos in the little blue icon, and I
Right.
saw, oh, he's actually streaming right now. That's
Isn't
that's
that
odd.
interesting? Yeah.
So
Like I said, that could be a shadow ban. That could just be another glitch.
yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. I suspect that the algorithm, whatever it's in charge of, is starting to get a little creaky because I'm seeing some weird behaviors from YouTube that don't really make a lot of sense. They're not really consistent, repeatable. They just stuff happens.
yeah.
And that's yeah.
I even um I've even been getting like weird recommendations for things that I'm not interested in. I know there's the theory that your phone listens to you and then that's how you get like
Yes.
ad recommendations. But I have to tell you, like, okay, so I'm one of those people that pays for um YouTube. I guess it's called premium. It used to be called
Yes.
YouTube Red, but
Right.
mainly so I can background play things on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't get ads. But what I will get are recommendations for like things that I'm not really interested in. Like I haven't even searched for furniture or anything at all this year, and yet I got like a recommendation for some crafts and channel, like for some woodworking channel in my feed. Talented guy. It was worth watching him make a table, but it wasn't. I'm like, this is bizarre. How is this popping up in my feed?
Yeah,
So
I don't know. And that those recommendations, those are actually pretty. I mean, I think if you ask 5 different YouTubers how the recommendations are calculated, they'll give you 6 different answers.
yeah. Well, I mean, on the one hand, it's weird. On the other hand, I mean that is kind of how I found you guys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really even, like I said, I wasn't even really searching for anything. I think all I searched for was like Star Wars. I can't even remember why I was initially searching for Star Wars. But amazingly, I found Drinker's review of The Last Jedi or something like that, and
Right.
and then I got sucked into this whole corner of the internet. So,
Yep. Yeah, and that's the at least with the pop culture stuff, I think searching for somebody's take on the new Doctor Who, the Star Wars sequels, the new Star Trek, series, whatever, whichever one you want to name. I don't want to name any of them. And getting one of the guys like Gary for a while was absolutely owned all the searches for Doctor Who, and and then yeah, Critical Drinker was hammering on the Disney sequels. So he got, probably like you, he got a whole bunch of people who found him because he was ranting about the Disney sequels, the Disney Lucasfilm sequels. But that changes, that evolves. You know, it becomes a different topic.
mm-hmm.
There's the topic of the day and there's the topic of the week. There's rarely a topic of the month. So you can get a lot of people, you can get an influx of people who find you because you're talking about something going on. That's not going to last. So eventually it falls back to word of mouth, um, you know, mentions, shout outs, things like that. To start spreading word around the fandom. But yeah, finding the channels in this sort of YouTube space can be a challenge.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Um, yeah. I mean, heck, if Eric K hadn't, I mean, I I had been in this community. I mean, I've been in this community for 2 years now. But
Hmm.
if Adam for Eric K, mentioning in my old Discord server that
Hmm.
that Fellball was live after Friday Night Tights, I would have never found out about you know
Right.
him or any of those guys.
Right.
So
Yeah. And it's just the system of doing shout outs and passing the word and posting up links in places like a Discord. That's why I'm in the that's why I'm in Discord. It's why I'm now getting onto Gilded, into different servers in Gilded. It's because of that. You start to see more types of shows and who's doing a live stream when. And I'm trying not to rely on notifications anymore to find the live streams that I would like to get to help out with branching, because I can't rely on the notifications. So I am constantly scanning, Twitter, Minds, Discord, and Gilded, looking for people posting up, going to be going live. Okay, I'll be there. Then I'll, make a
yeah,
reminder if I have to.
mine is actually pretty good as far as social networks go.
Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't have a lot of traction. Mine's
No,
doesn't. That's its big Achilles heel right now, is it doesn't have a lot of traction. I mean, I got on Twitter and I had more followers on Twitter in 24 hours than I've had in months on Minds.
yeah. Um, well, I mean, I I mean, back you could just kind of
You're starting to robot.
tag individual people. Uh oh. The system might be starting to glitch or something. Am I am I coming in clear now?
It's better now, yes.
Or okay. Okay. I like I said, this thing gets finicky at times, but okay. Yeah, but like I was saying, back in the early days of Twitter, it was pretty when it was a free for all, it was pretty good. But then once they started to kind of tamp down around 2016, uh, that was when things really started to change.
Yes.
in terms of now like I said, barely anyone sees my tweets unless I mention them directly or anything like that.
Right.
So well anyway, so other than modding, do you do any content creation yourself or anything like
No,
that?
no. I guessed on on the odd stream here and there. I'm a regular on the MFR. I'm not. I would like to do a mixture of live streams and videos, and right now I can't really run a live stream because of my the unreliability of my internet. I mean, if my internet went out while I was uploading a video I'd edited, I wouldn't lose the video, you know. But it looks pretty unprofessional and kind of cheesy to be trying to run a live stream and all of a sudden drop out because my internet service provider, screwed up. So
Uh-huh.
I haven't yet, and I really haven't found the stuff I would like to focus on. I've got a couple of ideas. I'm trying to figure out how I can make them work as topics without getting, instantly copyright struck or
Yeah,
talking about things people haven't been able to watch since the late 1980s and have not been on television or anywhere since then. Occasionally you'll see one in its entirety on YouTube, and I'm talking about the fully animated cartoons like Looney Tunes from Warner Brothers and the cartoons characters created by MGM. But I don't know what I can and can't get away with in trying to present and make points about a particular cartoon or the style of animation. Style of drawing by the different directors is recognizable. That'd be part of any presentation on famous cartoon directors. I just don't know how to make it work without getting copyright struck and thrown out of YouTube in the matter of 2 or 3 weeks.
well,
So
what's weird is like the even like the whole reaction thing. Like I tried doing like trailer reactions because those are pretty big right
right,
now. I
right,
mean, and you would think doing those with picture in picture and it's transformative. You would think that that would work, but um even so, I mean, I still got material that was you know struck down immediately. I mean,
right.
I even did a stream like a few months ago where I reacted to like old commercials from the 90s, and I think like one of the commercials had like some song that was like that just in like 5 seconds of a pop song or whatever, and it got the entire stream
Yeah,
taken down because God forbid 5 seconds of Tupac or something like that.
right.
So,
That I do know is the worst. Is any music that's under copyright is deadly. Literally seconds worth of it can get your stream canceled, your a claim made, worse or worse yet, a strike. And I don't know enough about it yet. I'm still talking with content creators. I'm still learning about things about StreamYard. I know nothing about any other alternatives to StreamYard like this one that you use, and I would like to know more before I jump in and commit to making a StreamYard subscription or something like that. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to speak in public more effectively and present myself on as part of a stream. And I figure as long as I'm working as hard as I can, and people who invite me on their streams aren't like you're never coming back because you sucked. I'm improving all the time. So
no, I
I
mean,
figure eventually I probably will. I just haven't figured out when that'll be.
yeah, I mean, you've been a great guest. Other than a few trolls and chat here, you've been pretty entertaining for the most part. But we love our trolls. But yeah, this whole thing is I remember back when YouTube was just uploading cat videos, and at at one point, like back in the very early days of YouTube, I mean, there was some risque stuff. It wasn't like it is now, where
Right.
you know, where Google just runs everything. It was more or less like a free for all.
Yes.
So, um, now like I'm only at 830 subs, but I sometimes have to wonder if they'll can me before I make it to 1,000, just because you know.
Either that, or if you've angered the Google gods sufficiently, they just won't approve monetization.
That'll probably be the case, more or less, because I do tend to swear, pretty regularly on stream.
Well, if you make sure to mark your streams as, mature audience type thing, I
Yeah.
think that's less of an issue. The really hypocritical part of it is, the CEO of YouTube got an award for supporting freedom of expression. Yeah, right. You say the wrong thing on YouTube, your stream disappears. Sometimes your whole channel disappears. And
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I got a stream taken down because I uh I I played a Project Veritas clip that had been going around during the pandemic. The weird thing was the video itself is still on YouTube, but
Hmm.
any stream that played it got
Right.
taken down immediately,
Right.
almost. So
Yeah. I don't know how I don't know how that works. I really don't.
yeah,
But that's the thing. It's very arbitrary, and part of what concerns me is it's getting worse. I mean, I mod on a lot of streams. I'm in some backstages and on some live streams. I talk with people who've been doing this for a while, and yeah, the arbitrary enforcement of ill-defined terms of service is getting worse and has been about, yeah, I mean, I think since 2016 is probably an accurate assessment, although I haven't been on YouTube since 2016.
yeah. Well, now they'll even ban you from like Discord now for like off-platform activity too if they don't approve that. Which you know, I mean, Discord is a whole nother
Yeah.
animal, but
Yes.
a lot of these terms of services are so vague and whatnot that you know like, what does off-platform behavior even mean? They haven't even defined that,
Right.
really.
Right.
And then like, so I've actually been banned off Discord a few times, and one of the times I got banned was for hate speech, but they
Oh,
never
jeez.
they never even like cited a specific chat or a specific post that I had made. Another one, oddly enough, was for sexual harassment of some kind. I don't even know what that was for. Um, I think maybe because I said that Melania was more attractive than Hillary or something. I don't know how that would. I don't know how that would constitute sexual harassment, but whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's bizarre. So
Yeah, they can, and I think it's getting worse. I think that somebody came up with the bright idea of saying, if we make our terms of service not only too long and complicated to read, we make them so vague, nobody can ever call us out on claiming that they violated them, and we can get rid of anybody we want under those circumstances. I think that's a relatively new weaponization of terms of service. I don't think that's been around that long.
yeah. Well now they're also figuring, because the thing for a long time is, oh well, no one reads the terms of service,
Right.
and for for a large, for a large chunk of the internet, that was the case. But now the terms of service are getting so weird that people actually are starting to read them and be like, wait, what is this?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to get dangerous to just ignore them.
Yeah, next thing you know, they'll be asking for your kidney or,
Exactly.
to use one of those services. So,
Yeah.
alrighty, sir. Well, I can't really think of any other topics. Anything you want to plug here?
No, I mentioned on Friday nights an Emma for Cocktail Lounge. It's a fun show. It's it's basically a bunch of guys sitting around in a lounge drinking and shooting the shit based on what happened that week. That's generally the format. It can get loud and a little bit crazy and sometimes funny as the evening goes on.
I
Yeah.
I can definitely test to that. So.
But obviously, yeah, you can also find me in a whole lot of chats. Some with a wrench, sometimes with a wrench, sometimes without. Say hi. I always try and say hi back.
Alrighty, sir. Well, thanks for coming on, and yeah, I'll definitely try and pop in more on the cocktail lounge. I don't always have the link to get in to those, but yeah, those are always interesting conversations to drop in on at times. So
Yep.
anyway, thanks for coming on, sir, and thanks to you, chat, for watching, and thanks to the podcast listeners. Until next time, have a good evening. God bless. God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy in that order, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Whitfield Report.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy in that order.